Hi everyone. Hello. It's been a minute since we're here. It's nice to be with you, Johan, here. And
Hello.
yeah, we're back. We don't even have the same name, so maybe you could tell our dozens of viewers and listeners what happened.
Oh no. Um we changed the concept of
Yes.
the channel into real talk, but it's going to be mainly the same to
Yes.
unemployed unemployed people with background and masters in screenwriting and film production.
Always where the money is, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, here we are, and we are excited. And yes, we sort of are trying this new format concept, but it's just like you were saying, it's basically the same. We're gonna comment on movies and series and uh docu-series and just like I guess everything that you can see on the screen type of um like content. So
Mhm.
yeah, so here we are, and the first episode is going to be about a very recent and very hot topic, I would say, which
Yeah.
is the docu-series Quiet on the
Yeah.
Set.
Working for Dan was like being in an abusive relationship.
Dan's treatment of people on his shows was an open secret.
So my lawyer filed complaints, gender discrimination, hostile work environment, harassment, and it was so devastating.
How safe can any kids be in that environment? There would be even bigger problems down the line with actual pedophiles on set.
So this documentary, it was directed by Mary Robertson and Emma Schwartz.
Mm.
There's a bunch of people in the cast, mainly the child actors and ex-employers of Nickelodeon who were sharing their stories in
Yes.
this, including Alexa Nicholas, Giovanni Samuels, Kyle Sullivan, Brian Hearn, Mark
Hmm.
Summers, Katrina Johnson, etc. And I apologize in advance for mispronunciation, if any. Um, and this docu series, I think all of us have seen up until the fourth episode. The last episode of the docu series, episode 5, will premiere on April 7th.
I think
Mm-hmm.
we have seen a lot of tweets online and comments online and clips
Mm-hmm.
everywhere online. So what we're gonna do here on this podcast is that we're gonna share what we think worked and what we didn't like that much.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
by the end, we hope to give everyone listening a rate, and based on that rate, maybe you can make a decision on whether you would like to spend some time to watch this or maybe you
Mm-hmm.
won't. So,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah. So what if we start with the with what we think uh we liked the most, or what we think we enjoyed watching this docu-series?
Mm-hmm. I actually, for me, I remember when this came out,
Mm-hmm.
I was having trouble with sleeping, and so I woke up really early and I found this out, and it actually woke me up from being really sleepy from waking up too early. So I
Good.
would give the docu-series props to like really hook you because it was really
Yes.
interesting. I think, um, I mean, for me personally, we have had this discussion before. We grew up with Nickelodeon, so I guess maybe there's a
Mhm.
little bit of an interest there. So I guess um, other potential audience might not share the same feelings if they were not a Nickelodeon kid. But
Mm-hmm.
regardless, I think if you like watching documentaries, it is a great linear storytelling for people who are not familiar with Nickelodeon, I think.
Yes.
Whether or not they will be interested, that's another issue, but it is easy to follow. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I also find the topic interesting, and I feel like it was well edited because I feel like this was produced by the two journalists, right? Or mainly journalists um, who kind of like started this whole thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not it was airing on HBO and Discovery, but I feel like it was in an HBO production, correct? So I feel like for maybe this sounds harsh, but I feel like HBO makes really good documentaries. It's always produced really well, but I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes if it's not made by HBO, you can tell that the quality is worse,
Yeah. In this case, I think it was produced by ID, the
which is
this
Discovery,
yes,
right?
investigation discovery. Yeah.
Yes, which is the I mean, 90 Day Fiance is on Discovery, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
imagine my surprise. I don't want to sound harsh, but you know.
Since I met Rose, I want to look young for her. So I have been dyeing my hair, and it irritates my scalp. So I found out that mayonnaise makes it smoother and less dry.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
can be doubtful.
when your well-made documentary is on the same platform as 90 Day Fiance. Yes,
Yeah, you can
let's just
have
say it
your
was
doubts.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
That was those were a few things that I liked about the docuseries. What about you, Fabi?
Yeah, I have to agree on the the fact that if you are not very familiar with it, you'll find it easy to follow. But also, I liked what you said about what could be attractive or just in general interesting for someone that actually grew up watching those shows. I think it also fits a little bit on nostalgia, I think, and that also
Mhm,
can work because you
mhm,
some of the people that grew up watching those series like you and I have, I
mhm,
think we started looking in a more personal way, uh
mhm,
just because we can um sort of like go back to those days and feel what it
mhm.
was watching those series and watching these very young actors and actresses
Yeah.
and looking now at them and how some of them have been extremely affected by it. I think it's also something that uh uh I wouldn't say affects us, but it does
Mm,
resonate, I think. It does sort of like um makes you want to know more, right? Like makes you want to know how they are right
mhm,
now and stuff. So I think that's something good. But besides that, I also found some interesting points that I think make this documentary work. Uh I have to say that one of those is not really about the content itself, but it was more, I think, a strategy. I remember that I knew about Drake being on the series before the series
yeah,
aired, right?
yeah.
So I,
It was
yeah,
everywhere. It was
exactly.
everywhere.
Yeah. And I thought that was, I maybe some people might think it worked, I don't know if against them. I think it worked perfectly um in their favor because
Mm,
according to what I read, they were asking journalists to not publish anything related to the series. And so what they did was they went a little bit like ahead, like before time actually, and they released this clip where you can tell that it is Drake who's participating
Mhm.
in the docu-series. And I thought it was clever actually, because everyone was just looking at that. I remember
Mhm.
that I saw it, I'm
Mhm.
sorry. And there was a lot of hype, I think, surrounding
Mhm.
that clip. So I think it worked in the sense of um
Promoting,
attracting,
right?
yes,
Marketing.
promoting, exactly,
Mhm.
marketing and attracting more viewers. And in general, the audience was a little more hooked with the whole storyline and the whole uh issues around it. So yeah, I think that was something positive for them.
Mhm.
Also, I like the fact that they were using clips from the series that were very mm, significant to what these young actors were trying to say about the work environment,
Mhm.
and also being little, like being basically
Mhm.
children surrounded by
Yeah.
adults, very weird adults. And
Mhm.
I thought that was very well done, because to me it was surreal. I don't know if it was to you, but looking back at those clips, I thought how naive we can be as children to not
Mhm.
see, like, not even like an inch of, like
Mhm.
perversion in any of those clips,
Mhm.
because I do remember some of
I
them.
think. Uh-huh.
Yeah. No, no, no. And they were really gross now that I look at them as
Mm,
an adult, but then I
huh.
just, you cannot as a
Because I
child.
think
Hmm.
for Because I think for me, sorry to cut you off.
No, no, no.
Because I think for me, I grew up with Nickelodeon, mostly like the animation stuff, and I remember specifically when Drake and Josh was on. I would watch it
Hmm.
from time to time, but
Yeah.
the Miranda Cosgrove's character as the sister was always really annoying to me.
Make it! Make it! Make it! Make it! Make it! Megan! Megan!
So I think that annoyance to her. I mean, I don't have anything against Miranda Cosgrove, but
The
that
character.
the
Yeah.
the character annoyed me so much that when there was iCarly, it made me not want to watch iCarly, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think the gross Dan Schneider stuff came afterwards. And I mean, Victorious was also on, I remember, but I never really watched that. Sam and Cat, I also didn't watch. Like, I would put it in the background, or like maybe I don't know, like I
Yes.
would just, or if I was watching SpongeBob on Nickelodeon, and then I would do something else and then just forget to change it, kind of thing. So I knew what they were about, the stories and all, but I think I've never truly seen the gross scenes as a child. So
Hmm.
I don't know if I would kind of, like, I don't have that same thought as you watching it,
Yes. In
because
well,
I watched it the first time as an adult.
yes, in my case, I also didn't watch iCarly. My sister did. I
Mhm.
did watch though Soy 101.
Zoe 101.
Yeah,
Oh, I
and
didn't
Soy
watch that
101,
either.
I think specifically that joke that it's uh this
The slime.
actress Alexa Nicholas talks
Mhm,
about.
mhm.
Yes, that one I do remember. I do remember having watched it.
Oh,
Yes, so it
uh-huh.
was, to me that was sort of like uh
Just
just like a, I
uh,
guess, a small
funny.
revelation of how
Mhm.
you can be very naive when you're young, and you
Yeah,
cannot tell about
for sure.
others, maybe kind
Yeah.
of like more malicious
Mhm,
intentions.
mhm,
But yeah, it's not that I watched a lot of those like very weird and inappropriate jokes, or because I didn't grow up like exactly watching, like, let's say, all
mhm.
that or the other shows like you were
Yeah, yeah.
mentioning, but
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
do remember that one specifically, and I was kind of grossed out about it.
Mhm,
But
mm.
yeah,
Of course, yeah.
uh I thought the clips were very um relevant regarding what
Mm,
this young actors were trying to uh they were trying to say, or
mhm,
just like bring up the case. And also what I really liked was this is not about the content itself, but it is more about the conversation that it has started or it has led up
mhm,
to, which is
mhm,
leaving this door open for more experiences to be shared and more, I
mhm,
guess, uh confessions. So I thought that
mhm.
was something positive. I understand that it's
Yeah,
not always easy to bring
for
forward
sure.
that sort of like traumatic experience, but for the people
Mhm.
that do want to do it, I thought it was very brave, and I thought it was very uh
I
I don't
agree.
know. Yeah.
I
So
agree.
let's say this other actor, Matthew Underwood from Story 101 again, he has recently shared his experience, though it wasn't on the set. It happened with, I believe it was his manager at the time, he said.
Mhm, mhm,
So still, even though it wasn't really happening during the set, it does say something
mhm.
about the adults working.
Environment.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So I thought that was
Mhm,
something that was helping this community of people that have been
mhm,
acting or working inside the industry and have been
mhm,
suffering maybe in silence, not really
mhm,
knowing what to do. Yeah. So, yeah, so those are the things that we have liked about this. Now let's go
mhm.
with what we didn't like.
I think it's a really strong documentary, and as you said, it can serve as like a jumping point for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of other people. It's an encouragement, and as a victim of essay myself, I think it's great, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I encourage that. I think it's not great essay. It's not great. What I
Yeah.
meant is like it's great to
Yeah.
share, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it. I don't know if this is correct, but I've heard somewhere that sometimes when you have a trauma, if you kind of like share it with other people, it's like sharing the burden, like kind of like passing the torch a little bit. And obviously, you have to
Yes.
go to therapy too. But I think it's like it's that passing of the torch, passing the information that kind of like helps the burden a little bit. I don't know if it's true, but I'm glad that these people can do that.
Yeah.
Um, but with that said, I think um, after watching the until episode 4, I feel like it was a little bit one-sided, and I think to go back, like if we want to talk about more theory stuff in terms of like, because I remember we had that class about documentaries and stuff, and I
Yeah.
remember the guy specifically talking about how you always have to take both sides. And I think they did try in a way by contacting Nickelodeon and then Nickelodeon not saying anything, obviously, just like that phrase that they always repeat in every episode.
Yes.
Um, which, is such a lawyer language,
Mm.
it was their
Yeah.
lawyer. But regardless, we know one of the people, Drake Bell, who was charged with child endangerment, if I'm not mistaken. He was charged with
Yes.
child endangerment.
Yes.
He pled guilty, served time, and community service.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and after researching about what he thinks about it, apparently, even after the Quiet on Set, he was on another podcast being interviewed, and from my from my opinion, I feel like he just doesn't want to mention it because this is just my assumption. I feel like he didn't want to mention it because he felt like, according to him, It was someone underaged who kept on going to his concerts and stuff, and then according to him, once he knew that she was underage, they stopped, etc. But she kept on like coming to him and stuff like that.
Yes.
But they started a relationship according to him, before him. But like I think the woman, the victim, let's call her. I don't know if that's even a good word, but this person who sued Drake went to court. She, according to her, it's completely different. Like she called him evil, etc., etc., groomed her, and I'm not going to argue the definition of grooming. I'm I'm just going to believe. Um, I truly think that it's very important to believe all victims.
Mhm.
So but I'm not calling Drake a liar either. But I feel like
Mhm.
it's still important, in my opinion, for him to be on that documentary and still talk about what he was convicted of. I
Mhm.
feel like it was glossed over so easily. They could have given him this platform. Technically, it was his platform to speak, to talk about if
Yes.
he wanted to set the record straight, for example. And he did talk about how like the media blew it out of proportion, da 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 da. But I feel like he could also be, I don't know, I feel like seeing it from the outside, obviously someone who was abused became
Mhm.
abusive. It's the cycle of abuse that everyone
Yeah.
knows. I
Yep.
feel like he could also take accountability and say that maybe, whether he wanted or not, consciously or not, he became a perpetrator of, abuse or assault. I mean, he didn't even abuse anyone. Like he
Yes, it
allegedly
didn't.
sent
Mhm.
like he sent a picture of his wiener, right? I
Mhm.
mean, but it's
Yeah.
still, I mean, it's not as horrible as maybe what Brian Peck did to him, but it's still, sending it to a minor is still inappropriate. I mean, one of the, cast members got fired or went to jail for sending an inappropriate
Yeah.
email, right? To like a
Mhm.
minor. So technically he
Yes.
did the same thing. And yes, he served his time, but in the few bits of trial that from what I know, he didn't plead guilty until the very end. And in fact, in that podcast, he said he only pled guilty because it was draining him too much money. So it was easier. So there's also
Mhm.
this, really hard for him. It's really hard for me to root for him when he's kind of, I don't know, I feel like he doesn't have enough um what is it? Empathy, like as a fellow victim.
Mhm.
Like I don't know, I just feel like with that lack of remorse as well, and also the fact that after the release of the documentary, he released a song. I don't know, dude. Feels very, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
I saw
aside that
the video clip, the music video clip.
you saw the video. I actually didn't see it,
Yeah.
but it was recommended to me, I guess, because my algorithm knows that I watched this. But yeah, it just, my skeptical side can't help it, but like I I don't know. Like as a victim of SA, I can't imagine myself like making a documentary about it and then after that, like, I don't know, releasing merch or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It feels wrong. It feels
Releasing
wrong.
merch.
It feels
Yeah.
wrong. That's all. I'm not, that's all. And I think that's one of my biggest gripe with the documentary. And I think, speaking of like all the Dan Schneider stuff, I think it's also like the clips that you mentioned, I think those have been popular for like a hot minute. And at this point it's kind of like it's the same thing that you've seen, which is
Yeah.
why I think the documentary for me started off really strong and interesting because it was new information that I never knew about, like gender discrimination, the pay gap,
Yes,
the
that I didn't know
the
of either.
racist stuff, you know.
Yeah,
So I think that's why for me the beginning of the documentary was very
stronger.
strong.
Yeah,
Yeah, was stronger and might affect my score at the very end. What about you?
I think what you said it is true, and I could also see it. I think there could have been more insight on Drake's
Wrongdoings.
yeah, wrongdoings exactly. And
Yeah.
maybe he could have said a little bit more, but I
Mm,
also understand why, and I also understand his um maybe his intention of sort of preserving his public image as an artist, etc. But I do agree he should have been more open, or he should have tried to explain himself a little bit more. The
mhm,
documentary could have tried to push him a little bit more, and it
mhm,
didn't. And I have to say, I also have my doubts about him. There's a lot of information regarding his case. There are
mhm.
basically two sides of the story.
Yeah.
I don't want to say that I fully uh, support his side of the story, because that's not the case.
Mhm,
I do feel
mhm,
for the victim, and I do still kind of like see more about this through the victim's side of the story.
mhm,
But since there is still like a lot of debate, I guess, like there are many fans debating it, and there are other people trying to prove those people wrong, and just
yeah.
back and forth, back and forth.
And I think also, sorry to interject, but like
No, it's
just
okay.
quickly,
Mm-hmm.
speaking about like the victims and stuff after the documentary, because like they paint Drake to be such a victim, and he is a victim, but he is also allegedly he served his time, but like they should still point out that like the victim felt a certain way about it. And I don't know, I feel like they should also talk about it because the girl was apparently getting hate. So I don't think it was
Yes,
fair.
that's
Yeah.
exactly, that's not fair either. So I do agree with that. In my case, what I have to say about what I think it didn't work, or maybe what could have been better, um, was more on the side of first the information gathering and the research job. The journalistic aspect of the documentary, I don't think it was as in depth as it could have been. I think
Mm-hmm.
there could have been more, uh, maybe more facts, maybe more, I don't know, numbers on the table presented to us, the viewers,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
have a more, um, I guess, a more complete understanding of the
Mm-hmm.
situation. Many of the cases were based on, I don't want to say assumptions because they weren't, but maybe some of them were not fully supported by tangible, uh,
Evidence.
yeah, tangible evidence, exactly. So I
Mm-hmm.
do have to say, maybe that journalistic research job could have been done a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
extensively. And
Mm-hmm.
second, I think as a viewer and someone that doesn't really know the industry, only has read about it, I think it could have been helpful for us, the viewers, to have a little bit more of information on child acting laws, because
Mm-hmm.
I think that could have served as a context to understand even more why it
Mm-hmm.
is important to speak out and talk about
Yeah.
all of this, because I would like to know how many hours does a
Yeah.
young actor, can work, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, I think even though the length of the docuseries is good. In my case, I don't
Mhm.
know about you, you can tell me after
Mhm.
this, but I think it could have been maybe a little longer, maybe add a few more
Mhm.
episodes to back up all the information, maybe do some more interviews, gather more confessions or testimonies of other
Mhm.
employees. I understand that
Mhm.
must be very difficult as well, but I
Mhm.
think there were some questions that were not answered, and well, they serve a purpose. You can, hopefully they
Yeah.
can continue this research and um this efforts,
Conversation.
yeah, and this
Mhm.
conversation, exactly. But at the same
Mhm.
time, I was left thinking, okay, who are these executives that might be
Right.
still working at Nickelodeon that once
Mhm.
decided to approve every single uh every single one of these inappropriate jokes and
Yeah.
unfair treatments to these young actors and actresses. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like they could maybe add some information about that. Like who was the, I don't know, CEO at the time, or who was the
Yes,
dot 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 at the time. And I think this is interesting that you mentioned that, because in Dan Schneider's interview with the guy who played Tebow, I don't know if you watched that, but he
I did a
so
little bit. Yeah.
yeah, he didn't really apologize, but he's just kind of like, well, like there's other people there too, and like they kind of approved it. Basically,
Mm.
kind of, what you were saying. So I think, yeah, that was something that they could have also included that. Um, but maybe they also were trying to like not get sued. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes, that's a fair point.
The fact
Yeah.
that like they repeat the sentence from the lawyer in every episode, I feel like
Yeah,
that was
there
why.
might be something
I think a
bigger
lot of
and
people are really scared, so yeah.
yes. Yeah, that's you're right. There's that possibility, but I
So,
think
yeah,
still maybe trying to get some more contact with those executives, or maybe
for
even
sure, I
with the
agree.
network itself, could have
I
been
agree.
useful.
I
So
agree.
yeah, that's what we think about Quiet on the Set. There's a lot to
Mhm,
talk about. It is a sensitive topic as well. It is not easy
mhm,
to cover essay and
mhm.
talk about it lightly, of course. And this is not what we are trying
We're
to
not gonna
do
talk
in
about
any way.
essay every week.
Yes, we're just yeah, we're just only trying to discuss other issues, but of course, in the middle of it, there's this bigger and more profound issue of SA and child acting and toxicity environment in the Hollywood industry. But
Mhm,
now that we have this pros and cons, let's try to give our dozens of viewers. I keep referring to Jamie French. Please don't think that I'm copying you. Anyways,
yeah.
what would you say? What would you give this docu-series, Johan?
I will give it a 69% fresh butter
Okay,
popcorn. Please, Rotten Tomatoes,
great.
don't sue us. It's just butter popcorn.
Yeah, great.
There's a lot of disclaimers here.
Yeah, exactly. We have to just to be safe. But we
Yeah.
do have this little like popcorn mascot
Oh
right
my
now, so
god.
we are referring to that, and I have to agree. I at first I was gonna rate it lower, but now considering what we were discussing, I realized it was better than I was rating it for.
Mhm.
And for me, I think it would be a 70% of fresh butter popcorn. So yeah, I think we're kind of in the same
We're yeah,
around that.
we're we agree. We agree.
Yeah. So
Um,
I think we can recommend it if you might be easily triggered with this
Yes.
sort of topics, you might
Yes.
want to do some
Just
research
don't watch
first.
it.
Yes, or
Just
maybe
watch it. It's
avoid
not worth
it
it.
if or maybe
It's not
avoid
worth it.
it
Yeah.
if it might
Yeah.
be
Like just
something.
watch like someone else's recap on it if you're
Yes.
interested. But like if you want me to recap it for you, I can. And it's literally just Dan Schneider, bad. Nickelodeon, bad. It
But
just profit. No actors, like no child actor safely,
yeah,
bad. Brian Peck, bad.
but the other
Pedophilia, bad.
guy,
Basically,
yeah.
that's the those are the that's all that you need to know. So you're not missing out. Just don't get triggered.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah. If you might be very sensitive to it, you just
mhm,
might as well just avoid it and watch someone
mhm,
else's recap or opinions on it. But if you
mhm.
feel like you are at a better place with that, you can for sure give it a try and watch it.
Yeah,
And
it's
yes,
nice
so
to
I
watch.
think that's pretty much what we have to say. And what else we can say right now?
Um, we'll see you in 2 weeks, hopefully.
Yes, hopefully we'll be back in 2 weeks. That's what we are going to try to do. Maybe 1 or 2 episodes per month. So stick
Mhm.
around. Hopefully you like
Don't
it.
hold your breath though, because we're not
Yes.
we're not rich. Do not sue us. Don't
Yeah.
hold your
But
um
yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy this one and our next one. So
yes. And
thanks.
stay fresh,
Yep.
like the butter
Like the
popcorn.
butter popcorn. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.